So you're going to be there, are you? As my friend Sarah says at Yarn Mugs, on the Yarn Mugs channel, about her cat Alfie, she is now in the loaf position. She looks like a little loaf on the back of the sofa. Hello, are you saying hello to everybody? It's not my cat. If you're new here, this is not my cat. It's next door's cat. It's pouring of rain outside though, so I'm very glad she's here and dry. So I'm going to catch you up on my books. I really wanted to do this during Vlogtober and I just ran out of time because I got unwell. I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm not 100%. I'd say I'm about 70% better and 30% concealer. That's how I'm getting through the days at the moment. I'm halfway through my course, just over halfway through my course of antibiotics, and they are no joke. They are making me feel horrible. So I have been doing more reading because I've been going to bed early and reading, which is good. But I've already got loads to catch you up on anyway, because I think the last time I talked about books was way back at the beginning of September, possibly. I'm not sure. So I've been keeping a note on my story graph. My story graph is always linked underneath in the description box. If you're on there, send me a friend request. I always accept them. In fact, I've just seen one pop up that I need to go and accept. And that's where I list all the books that I've been reading or audiobooks that I've been listening to. I've also got my little notebook, which I still keep because I don't know, I just like to have it all written down in a little notebook. It's not fancy and it doesn't look particularly good. Oh dear. Oh, I had to tear a page out because I made a mistake, and that's obviously loosened another page. I shall have to sellotape that in, but that's okay. I like it when you have to sellotape a page in. It makes the book feel all kind of nice, and I don't know, I like it. Is that just me? When you sellotape a page into a book, I just like it. I like the process of doing it and I like how it feels. So I keep a note of everything I read and listen to in here, and little notes to myself about what I thought. And I also keep a note on Storygraph and review them there as well. But I sometimes go back and change my star rating because I notice that sometimes I'll read a book and then it just stays with me so much that I feel like I have to up the star rating, because if a book stays with me, it's obviously had an impact. Yeah. So I'm just gonna go through in order. So grab yourself a nice blanket and a cup of tea or coffee or whatever your warming drink of choice is. I have a Diet Coke, which isn't a very cosy reading vlog drink, but I've already had my cup of tea today and I had lunch not long ago, and I like to have a Diet Coke with my lunch. So I'm just finishing it off. It is pink though, which is pretty. I'm quite an eclectic reader. I will pretty much read anything and everything if I like the story. The only thing I don't really go towards is, or don't read at the moment, never say never, is like horror. I don't really like horror, and I don't read a lot of kind of crime kind of things, but otherwise everything else is pretty much, you know, I'm game for it. So it's quite an eclectic mix of things I'm going to catch you up on, and I think I'm going to go from, where should I go from? I think I'm going to go from the beginning of August, because I feel like I talked I think about listening to the Shadow Cabinet by Juno Dawson, which was the follow-up to Her Majesty's Royal Coven, and I think I talked about reading Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus, which I absolutely loved, gave it 5 stars, brilliant book. So I'm going to start from my reading in August and go through those and just give you a bit of an insight into what I've been reading and what I thought of them, and I hope that will be interesting. I'm going to move slightly so that I can put pictures of the book covers up here. You can just see my reaching into the nether. You can just see my serious light here as well, which I'm actually going to talk about in a minute. Here it is. Because they are sponsoring this video, but I'll get to that in a minute. Or should I do it now? No, let's do August, then we'll talk about the light, and then we'll keep going through September and October. So at the beginning of August, I joined and started looking at a site called NetGalley. And if you like if you like any kind of books, I'd really recommend going to have a look at it. You can put in a request to either read electronically or physical copies or listen to audiobooks. on there, and if you're approved you get them in return for leaving an honest review. And I did that a couple of times. I find the site a little bit confusing, so I don't do it often. But at the beginning of August I got Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. It's a very short little book. It's just about 7 hours long. And it's a really quirky little story about a coffee shop where you can travel, you can only travel back in time, and there were all kinds of rules around it. So you have to be at a certain place in the cafe, you have to come back before the coffee gets cold, and you can only travel back in time, and you can't change anything. And there are also other things going on about where you can sit, because that seat does tend to be occupied as well. So you do have to wait for the seat to become free. It was a really, really quirky and fun little book, and I really enjoyed listening to it. I really enjoyed the narration of it as well. And I believe it's actually part of a series. I'm pretty sure that there are more in the series, which I would definitely listen to. And I really, really liked it. I should probably get my Storygraph out and I'll tell you my star ratings. I've read 50 books this year, by the way. I'm so pleased. I set myself a goal of reading 50 books and I've just hit it, which means I'm ahead, which is brilliant. And that's reading and listening to audiobooks. I see them as one and the same, really. In fact, sometimes I would read one and then listen to it in the audiobook, or listen to it in the audiobook and read it afterwards, just to see like the different feels that I get, if that makes sense. Okay, so for Before the Coffee Gets Cold, I gave that 4 stars. After that, I read a physical copy of Letters from Lighthouse Cottage, which was a charity shop find by Ali McNamara. And yeah, I gave that 2.5 stars. I read the whole thing. It was okay. It was light. It was an easy palate cleanser romance, but yeah, it wasn't great. I then borrowed from my eldest daughter, Heartstopper Volume 1, because I've never read it. She absolutely loved the Heartstopper series, or is loving the Heartstopper series. It's still ongoing. And then my youngest daughter borrowed it and read it as well. So, and they're graphic novels and they're a quick read. So I thought, oh, I'm going to read that and see what it's all about. It's by Alice Oseman, and it's like a lovely, it's not like, it is a lovely graphic novel about a love story between Charlie and, oh my goodness, I've only just finished Volume 3 and I've forgotten the names already. Charlie and, you're all shouting at me, aren't you? Nick, that's it. Charlie and Nick. It's a boy meets boy romance. It's really lovely, and the do you call them illustrations if it's a graphic novel? The drawings? The graphic illustrations? I don't know. Are lovely, and the way she conveys kind of emotion and small emotions and small feelings and things going on with her drawings is really spot on and so cute. I just loved it, and I read that really quickly. I then got another book from NetGalley, and I probably would never have in a million years have thought to listen to it if it wasn't for the fact that I was able to get it by NetGalley and it looked quite interesting, and I thought I'd put my name down for it. It was a very short book of 3 hours and 45 minutes because I listened to this on audio, and it is called Marzahn Mon Amour. It's by Katja Oskamp and it's translated by Joe Heinrich. Marzahn is a suburb of East Berlin, and it's a kind of part memoir about a woman who retrains. She changes career and she retrains to become a chiropodist in Marzahn, and it's a kind of part memoir, part kind of history and part love story for the place where she lives and the job that she does. And honestly, if you told me at the beginning of the year that I would listen to nearly 4 hours of audiobook about a woman talking about people's feet, and loved it, I would never have believed you. It was so good. It was such a quirky little tale. It was really quick little sort of listening between longer books, and it was just beautifully told. It was very much as well about coming to terms with where you are when you reach midlife. It was about friendship. Yeah, and just about loving where you are and what you do. And I really enjoyed that one. And again, that was from NetGalley. And that was August. So before I move on to September, I feel like I'm doing this in a really, really weird way. The cat's making weird noises behind me. Has she been doing anything weird whilst I've been talking, or has she just been washing? I hope she's not been doing anything undignified. I thought I would quickly talk to you about my beloved Serious Light that is here. I'll just bring her in. And I don't know when it suddenly became a her, but apparently that's what she is today. Yeah, you've heard me talk about her many times before. And now it looks like I'm like got a microphone or something. And now the time has come. Don't sing on the vlogs. Oops, didn't mean to turn it on. You see how easy it is to just grab it and turn it on like that. So this is my Serious Light. I've worked with them for a couple of videos before, and they're sponsoring this one, which I'm really, really grateful for. So thank you so much, Serious Lights. They're really lovely people to work with. They're a British company, and all the lights are hand built here in the UK. They're in Aylesbury actually, and they all come with a 5-year warranty, which is fantastic. The quality is brilliant. I use this every day, and I know I say that a lot, and you probably saw me using it a lot during October as well, but it's true. It's because I just use it all the time. I use it mainly for crafting, but seeing as we're talking about books, I will mention that I do use it for reading as well. And actually Dan uses it more than I do for reading, because it's so easy to move about. If he gets up ahead of me in the morning, which he often does, because I struggle at the moment getting up, he'll sit and read under this light, and if he's working at home in the kitchen on a gloomy day, he'll bring it through to help him illuminate what he's doing at his laptop as well. It's such an unobtrusive light if you're sitting next to someone. It's really kind of focused down like that, and you can adjust it, the beam and the strength of it as well. I just absolutely love it. I would not be without it, especially for my knitting and my crochet. And I've got an offer for you for this as well. It's the same offer that I spoke about last time, in that you can get £100 off plus free shipping. It's an international offer as well. I'll put all the information about it underneath, and a link so that you can go and take advantage of that. I went for the lightweight base. No, I was going to actually pick it up. Shall I do it to demonstrate my superhuman strength? Oops, nearly hit the ceiling. Yeah, I went for the lightweight base so it's easy to move about, because I knew that I would want to move it from sofa to sofa or room to room. But you can get heavyweight base as well, and they do come in different colours. I went for black because I like that, but you can get them in white, or you can do like a combination of white and gold and stuff like that. And they're high definition, and they use daylight wavelength technology, which replicates as close as possible the natural daylight spectrum. And yeah, it's really, really lovely light to work under. A few of you have already commented to say you've either already got one and you love it, or that you've taken advantage of the offer and you haven't regretted it. So that is really, really good. I'm really, really pleased. And I'm pleased for them as well, because they are a really lovely company. Just having a little scratch there, are you? That was Mia's way of saying thank you very much to Serious Lights for sponsoring this video. Let's move on to September. So the first book I listened to in September was Throne by Sarah Cox, and that was on audio, obviously, because I listened to it. It was a very cute story, it was funny, and then Sarah Cox herself read it. Sarah Cox is a DJ, a radio DJ here in the UK. She's on Radio 2, she does the Drive Time show. And I really like Sarah Cox. I've kind of grown up with her. She's the same age as me, I think maybe a year older or something. So her voice is very familiar to me, and I feel like we've kind of grown up together, you know, from partying days of our 20s through to getting married and having kids and so on. Although she's a big animal person, which has nothing to do with the book. It's all about pottery. She was the original presenter of the Pottery Throwdown. And she obviously picked up a few things in there, or it sparked the idea, and it's based around a local community centre pottery group. I really enjoyed the book. And I would read more from her as her writing develops, but I didn't enjoy it that much. It was a light-hearted romantic tale. The characters were good, but I was left feeling a little bit confused by some of the relationships between the characters. There was a couple of characters called Louise and Sheila. I was a little bit confused by their relationship. It didn't seem to make sense in the sort of overall story, but otherwise I enjoyed it, and I'd definitely read more as she kind of develops as a writer, I think. I then listened to Life Saving for Beginners by Josie Lloyd, and I really loved this book. Josie Lloyd, I read quite a few of her books when she co-wrote with Emlyn Reese? Is that who she used to write with? I can't remember, in the 90s. And this is a book that she's written on her own, and it's very much a book. It's set on the coast in Brighton, in England, and it's a story of female found friendships, female relationships, and just overcoming life's difficulties by swimming in the sea. And I really enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the story, the threads running through it, and I thought the narration was really good as well. One of the main characters is Danish, and I liked the very matter-of-fact, no-nonsense kind of accent that the narrator gave her. I did really enjoy it, and yeah, it was what made me want to go and try cold water swimming, which I was going to do in October, but didn't because I got ill. But I will be doing it. I've got everything I need, so as soon as I'm up to full fighting spirit again, I will be doing it. And I'm sure you will be joining me on the GoPro. I then read The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie by Alan Bradley. I really enjoyed this. It was a gift. In fact, I've got another one from the series. It is quite an extensive series of books about the character Flavia Deleuze, who is like a 11-year-old super sleuth. She's like a miniature little female Sherlock Holmes. And the feel of the book, the setting of it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. I liked the mystery, I liked the writing. It was very humorous, and the other sort of players in the story were really enjoyable. But I had to mark the score down because there was this completely unnecessary scene that was just really racist, and I looked through the reviews actually on Storygraph, and a few other people have said the same. The scene itself was important to the plot, but it didn't have, and it was set in the 1950s, and I guess in a way it was trying to reflect some of the outdated and ignorant attitudes of the day, but it was a completely unnecessary thing to include in the book. It could have been done in a completely different way without something like that, which I felt was very distasteful. So that kind of ruined it a little bit for me. I was really enjoying it up to that point. And then after that, it kind of took me out of the story a bit. And for the rest of the book, I couldn't stop really thinking about that and how it was just so shocking and unnecessary. It just wasn't needed. And I don't know why it was in there. It was completely unnecessary. So that ruined it a little bit for me. And then I went to Spain and I read Mordekax. Now this is one of the self-published books. It's by Mark McKerracher, that came with my Your Paper Quest subscription, who I worked with last month. And I was determined to take one of those books and read them. And I'm so glad I did. I loved it. It was a really good, solid fantasy novel. It was mysterious. It was well paced. The world that was created was believable. I really enjoyed it. I only marked it down a bit. It would have got a 4-star from me, maybe even a 4.5, but I marked it down because the ending just seemed to be very rushed, and there were lots of things that were kind of tied up really quickly, and it wasn't as clever as the rest of the book, and I think that let it down a bit. But I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it, and it's going to be the first in a series of books. So when the author publishes the second book, I will definitely get it, because I understand that it's going to be a bit of a prequel So or not, I don't know if it's a prequel or if you're just going to get more on the other sort of periphery characters, like the parents or the father of the main character in the book and so on. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, loved it. I then listened to What's Wrong With Me, 101 Things Midlife Women Need to Know by Lorraine Candy. It's about a 7-hour audiobook. It was a really funny kind of part memoir, part help book. It was engaging, it was told with great humour, and it was a really helpful book as well, and I really enjoyed it. And it actually put me on to, because Lorraine Candy is one of the presenters of the podcast called Postcards for Midlife. And because of that book, I went on to listen to that podcast, and that is really good as well. And for somebody of my age, I'm 46, am I? 46? I was born in 1977. Yeah, so I'm 46, so I'm very, very much slap bang in the middle of midlife, and so much of that book really spoke to me, and I found it, yeah, very funny and very useful. This video is going to be a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. Apparently catching up on books when you haven't talked about them in ages takes a while, so I hope you're enjoying it. Do make sure, by the way, if you've read any of the books that I'm talking about, or if you've got any to add that you've been reading, do make sure to leave me a comment underneath and let me know what you thought of them. I'd love to hear your thoughts on things that I've read as well. I find it really interesting to hear different views on things. I do deliberately never read the reviews, or very rarely much of the synopsis, before I read a book, because I want to develop my own opinions of it. But now that I've read them, feel free to let go in the comments and let me know all your thoughts about any of these books. Okay, so October. I started off October by reading Heartstopper Volume 2. So everything I just said about Heartstopper Volume 1 you can apply to Heartstopper Volume 2. I loved it. It was really, really sweet, and yeah, just love it. It's by Alice Oseman, by the way, in case I didn't say that earlier. And I then listened to Hex Appeal by Kate Johnson. Now you will, if you were with me for Vlogtober, you will already know my thoughts on this book, because I really, really enjoyed it. It was the perfect seasonal spooky season. It was all about, it was light-hearted, it was romantic, it had magic thrown in, the characters were sweet, the world building around it was brilliant. I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. It was the perfect thing for me to listen to whilst doing Vlogtober, because it didn't require a huge amount of brain power. It kept me going, it made me happy, it made me smile, it made my trips to work or the supermarket or doing the laundry that much more interesting, because I was listening to it whilst doing those things. So as soon as I finished it, I immediately moved on and listened to the second book, which is Hex and the City by Kate Johnson. Obviously, same author, and it's basically the follow-up, but not the follow-up, because they're completely different characters, completely different story, but you do see some of the characters from the previous book, and they are referred to as well. And I enjoyed it just as much. It was a bit fruitier than the first book, but it was good. I liked it. I thought it was a really good romantic tale. And then I read a few days ago Heartstopper Volume 3. I think this was my favourite one of the three that I've read so far, because they go on a school trip to France, and the other characters in the book really come into their own in this, and it's very much the tale of teenage relationships of all different types. So you've got a gay relationship, bisexual relationship, a lesbian relationship, you've got someone who's trans, you've got, yeah, and all kinds of things like that. It's a hugely representative book, and I'm really, really glad that I've read it, and I'm really glad that my girls have read it. It gives them just a much better understanding of how to have empathy and how to be understanding and accepting, and it will help them be better friends and better allies to the people in their lives. And I'm really glad I read it. I loved it. I then finished Practical Magic, which you may also know because that was during Vlogtober as well, by Alice Hoffman. It was okay. Practical Magic is one of my favourite films. The film is extremely different to the book, and the book was okay. I didn't like any of the characters. By the end, they redeemed themselves a bit, but mostly I thought they were just, yeah, they weren't likeable. Although quite a few people have commented to say that of all the books in the series, Practical Magic was the one that just didn't hit the mark for them, and that the other books are much better. So I do have 2 other books from the series. Three other books actually. So I am going to read those because I can tell that I'm going to enjoy them from the style of writing. And yeah, and I trust your opinions. And that's it. That's where I'm up to for completed things. Right now, my audiobook that I'm listening to is another one by Lorraine Candy, and it's called Mum, What's Wrong With You? It's a very specifically written book for mums of teenage girls. So as well as being smack bang in the middle of midlife at 46, I've also got a 17-year-old and a very nearly 13-year-old who might as well be 17. And they are completely different people. And the book that I'm listening to by Lorraine Candy now is a very, very helpful insight into her experience and her writing about bringing up teenage girls, living with teenage girls and just dealing with teenage girls. And I'm finding it really, really, really useful. In fact, I'm going to get the hard copy from the library to give to Dan to read, even though it's written for mothers. I think he'll benefit from it as well. So I'd highly recommend that if you have teenage girls. And I am reading a book that I am absolutely in love with so far. I'm not very far into it. I've got my What Victoria Read bookmark in here. Sounds weird, I'm in, and it's got the little rainbow paw prints, so you can just see there where it is. So I'm not far into it at all, just there. And I love it. I love Viv, who is the orc who has hung up her sword to open a coffee shop somewhere where they've never heard of coffee, in a fantasy city where they've never heard of coffee. She's just hiring staff at the moment, so that's happening, and installing everything. So she hasn't actually opened the coffee shop yet. It's just adorable. The premise of this is fantastic. I love it, and I don't even drink coffee. So really enjoying that. I'm really looking forward to reading that again later. Okay, so that is me fully caught up with everything that I've been reading. Very much a sit down vlog. And I hope that you enjoyed it, and do let me know if you've read any of the books that I've spoken about and what you thought of them and what your star rating was. And if you're on Storygraph, let me know and come and find me. I'm Sorry Eyes Ali on there. So yeah, be good to be friends on there. And I'm off now to run a bath, a Saturday afternoon bath. It's Saturday, it's pouring with rain. I hate Saturdays, they're the worst day of the week. You're not settling down. Have you just been scooching about behind me the whole time? Oh, that nice. She's an old girl. You're an old girl. We were trying to work it out. I was talking to my neighbour the other day and she was trying to work out how old she must be, because I don't think they knew when they got her. But we worked out she must be at least 15. That's quite old for a cat, isn't it? Anyway, cats and books. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.